Hey, welcome to another episode of Inquiring Minds with Donna Carlin and Steve Harper. I am Steve Harper, and with me, as always, is Donna Carlin. Donna, how are you doing today?
I am so looking forward to today. How about you?
Me too. I'm excited about this one. I'm excited about all of them, let's be honest. But this conversation is going to be a fun one to have. What are we talking about today?
So today is a little bit different slant. People don't resist change. They resist being changed.
Yes, I like this one because I think I am guilty as charged. Let's just be honest.
Like, who isn't? Yeah.
Well, the motivation behind this is, people are not opposed to necessarily changing. They just don't want to be told how they need to be changed, right? And why do you think that resistance tends to come up? This is kind of an interesting take on our prior episode because we talked about how the gift of someone giving you their advice and guidance, that really is a gift that you should be open to and accept it. And so this is kind of the counterpoint to that a little bit because, what do we do when we have it when we don't really want to follow the advice that we're being given?
People don't like to be told that they need to be something or someone else, first of all. In the work context, change only works well because it will eventually work when it's shoved down somebody's throat, in which case it's not going to be an easy transition. I look at change as really successful when it's co-created, when you bring people in for their 3 cents so they could really help you design what that change looks like and for the sake of what. So, people don't care if you think that change is better for them, because then you're forcing them into a box they might not visualize as being good for them. People will buy in if they co-create it because it's partially theirs. Yes. And they had a say in it. It doesn't mean that you can't have like the vision, the goal, that, desired end result. What it means is you're going to say, this is where we want to go. We need to change to get there. Let's talk about what that change looks like.
Well, what comes to mind when you're saying that is what we covered in episode 3 with Tung Fu, right? How you present the idea, how you suggest it, the language around what you are suggesting by way of change is super, super important for how people receive it, right?
For sure. You tell somebody you have to do this.
I'm already digging in. I don't know.
They're ready, 2x4 is ready and poised, or in my case, it's a hockey puck ready to be thrown. So if you look at how you frame it, and you frame it through a desired end result that people can attach meaning to.
Yeah.
So it has, some special meaning to them. It's going to do something positive for them, whatever it is. Then you don't have to get buy-in. What you do is you have a partner in crime. There's a huge difference there.
Absolutely. Well, and I remember one of the things that you mentioned in that episode about kids and homework, right? Can I watch TV? Well, if you've done all your homework and you've done your chores, then absolutely, you have access to the television. But where we as parents, and I'm guilty of this a lot, did you do your homework? Did you get your chores done? And you're not doing anything until you get that taken care of. It takes that entire conversation and puts it like right on the the back heels, if you will. And of course, whoever you're communicating that to, your kids, or maybe it's my wife just talking to me, I don't know. But ultimately, at the end of the day, then you dig in because you're ready for a battle and you're like, well, whatever you're suggesting, whatever you're selling, I'm not taking it. I'm not buying. So it becomes a challenge because it is, I think it's hardwired into us to resist that, but if you, like you said, co-create and you sort of arrive at the same, solution, the same end game, if you will, with the other person, it feels less confrontational.
The other thing is, even though somebody might agree with you, when you tell somebody that it's for their good to do something, it's for your own good, that wonderful sentence that is telling somebody that you need to do this because it's detrimental to you. Saying it that way, however, is going to get a lot of pushback.
Yep.
The minute you say you need to do this because, first of all, you need to, is telling somebody that you are superior and you're telling them exactly what they have to do this, or you should be doing this, which means whatever they've done to date, is horrible. So, you look at that language, it's critical. And it's also not creating conflict. I remember years ago, there was a huge change initiative going on in one of the organizations I was working in. And the way it was being implemented just sucked the life out of everybody on the floor.
Yep.
And what I did was, I am sneaky in a lot of my work. And there's this graphic that shows the emotional journey of change initiatives. And it's everything from depression to anger. And you see like the wave in the graphic of what this change initiative does. And I put it up on the walls on the floor in the organization, and people would walk by and say, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And they would identify with the emotional attachment to what that change was doing to them. Most of the time it was depression, anxiety.
Yeah.
It was really profound to see how low everybody got. And I went to the president and I said, this is what people are saying. They're pointing a finger to something that is very emotionally unhealthy. That's because change is being forced down their throats. They don't even know why. So how about if we got everybody together to share the story of where you want this to go and ask them, how do you see us getting there? Never even occurred to him.
Yep.
It was unbelievable. And that was the most amazing meeting because people were able to share their 3 cents about things. They were able to say, oh, I understand why you want to do the change. How it's being done is where I'm upset.
Yep.
And that is a differentiation that we need to pay attention to, whether it's individual relationships, organizational relationships. Forcing change down somebody's throat is not going to get the change you want. It's going to get the absolute opposite.
Yeah, well, and for those people that change is being forced upon them, it's the lack of control, the lack of input, their lack of being able to participate in what's about to occur. I remember, and you probably have seen it in Canada, like we did here in the U.S. for a long period of time. There was this big wave of consultants that were change managers, right? And you would see these people show up in corporate environments. And it's kind of like saying, hey, I'm from the government. I'm here to help. It is not going to go well, no matter what what your perception is. And the reality is that the resistance was, it's us versus them, because whatever the change is, at the end of the day, because it's being thrust upon them, people just inherently pick their, draw the battle lines, right? And they're going to, dig in their heels, and they're going to resist whatever gets put forward because they don't have that control. They don't feel like they're a participant in the process, because they really, in a lot of instances, haven't been given that respect to be asked to be part of that process, which is where a lot of leaders and organizations go awry in the first place.
That's where the word consultation really comes into play.
Yeah.
Consult people, listen to, where they're coming from and why they're coming from where they're coming from.
Yep. Yeah.
That is huge.
Absolutely. So the resistance piece that generally that I think we all can recognize and have experienced in various stages of our lives, right? Personally or professionally. How can you be more cognizant of not immediately deciding you're going to, be opposed to any change that's being suggested, but how, if it's being laid on the table, how do you play a more active role to say, hey, that sounds great. Let me give you some ideas or thoughts about ways that I think I can contribute here, because I think it's also an equal scenario here, right? Organizations thrusting it will get the resistance, but it's also up to us as individuals to also kind of raise our hand and say, hey, I think that's a great idea. Here's some suggestions that I think that we can, or I can, contribute in by way of this process. So how much you suggest, our audience or our viewers maybe handle a situation where change seemingly is being thrust on them? How do they respond to that so that they can be a part, play a role in helping the process, achieve a better outcome?
There's two sides to this. One side is somebody's telling me the change is going to happen, and I'm seeing from my personal point of view and my role within the organization, this is what might occur because of it, which might not be exactly where they want to go. So one of my roles is to say, what I'm seeing from my perspective is that this is something that I wanted to flag for you, just in case that this was a unintended consequence. And you throw it out there. It doesn't mean they're going to change the initiative. What you're doing is giving them a heads up kind of comment. And the second thing is also, from my point of view, from the role that I play in the organization, this is how I can implement it so that I get people on board and collectively we move forward. Is that exactly what you want?
Yep. Well, that's
and
good.
If not, how do we course correct along the way? That's the other thing. You embark on a change. If you don't have the for sake of what question answered, like why are you changing just to create a different outcome without that vision of what that outcome is not going to get you very far.
No.
So without that for sake of what question answered, you're really in limbo. If you have that for sake of what question answered, that's great, because you could course correct along the way. You could start on the initiative and say, this is working really well. This little piece is not working so well. Let's just address that, bring it on board. So it's not this massive initiative. What you're doing is in stages on purpose.
Yep. Oh, that's great. I love that. Well, this is yet another interesting topic. I mean, we could talk about this one for hours, because change is hard for everybody. It's hard for the organization. It's hard for the leadership. It's also hard for those that are in the consequence, they have consequences that are dependent on the change. And for those folks, it can be scary, and there's a lot of fear factor. And what I hear from you saying is, the more that we communicate, the more we collaborate, the better we can approach this collectively, the better chances we will have of that change actually being successfully implemented and the success being realized.
It was really funny. I was doing this change initiative with a director in an organization whose assistant was so against me being there. It was unbelievable. She felt threatened because, they run the lives of their bosses.
Of course.
And they are important. So I went to speak with her, and she looked at me and said, you could do whatever you want here. Just know the minute you leave, I'm going back to doing the old way of doing things. And I looked at her and I said, thank you for letting me know. And the following day I went in there and I said to her, okay, could we have a few minutes? Because I want you to partner with me to help make this happen. You're the one that runs the organization, for crying out loud. It's the truth. I mean, let's face it here.
Yeah.
And so I want your input. She was so excited that she was my biggest advocate. It never went back to the old way of doing something. She was waiting for another change management person to come in, and that's not what I do, right? I was doing team coaching, and said to her, I value your input because you run the place, for crying out loud. So let's put our heads together and see what the best way is to implement this. And she was my best partner.
I love that.
So she was consulted and listened to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, you made her feel a part of the process, and you made her feel important because she was important. And likely everybody that had come in previously completely ignored the power that she actually has. And what she was really saying to you in those moments of, look, we're going back to the way it was, because that's what I have the power and authority to do that. And if you don't get my buy-in, if you don't bring me along as part of the process, then nothing's going to change really here. You can put all your work and your effort towards it, but at the end of the day, if I don't agree with it, I'm going to undo it. And so the way that you approached it is brilliant and so powerful, and such a great takeaway for us, for sure. So let me ask you really quickly, Donna, how would people, maybe share with us some of their challenges when it comes to change how they've experienced it, maybe what they have seen in their own, personal or professional environments, or maybe give us some feedback or comments on this topic.
Well, there's always social media. I'm posting constantly on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me.
Yeah.
On our Facebook page for Inquiring Minds, join the group, be a part of the conversation.
Yes.
And on Twitter, on Instagram, we're all over the place. So I believe that our websites are on the YouTube page.
Yep.
Best way to find everything else. There'll be links to everything else on there.
Absolutely. And for those that'll just hear the podcast, what is your website so people can find you?
It's donnacarlin.com, Carlin with a K.
Makes it perfect. And on your social media, just in case anybody's listening and wants to follow you on Twitter, your Twitter handle is?
It's _shadow coach.
Yep.
And yours?
My website is ripplecentral.com, and you can find me on almost every social media platform at Rippleon, RIPPLEON. And we would invite you to let us know what you think of this. Let us know what you think of all the episodes and how these conversations are progressing, and if they're making you think and reconsider some things in your own personal and professional life. We'd love to hear from you. So please definitely drop us a note, and we're paying attention, and we're watching, and we're participating. So these conversations extend well beyond the episode. So we invite you to continue those conversations with us. So until next time, we really appreciate you tuning in. We will be back with another episode of Inquiring Minds very soon. Donna, take care.
Have a good one.